For more on this, I'm joined by Democratic Congressman Adam Smith of Washington. He's the top Democrat on the House Armed Services Committee. Congressman, good to see you. Thank you for being with us.
That's good to see you, Alec. Thanks.
Let's first talk about the fact that we are missing an airman right now. There were now 2 planes that have been shot down by Iran. 1 airman was rescued. The other one from the A-10 has been rescued. There's 1 airman not accounted for right now who is likely in Iran.
That's correct, yes, and it's something we should all be thinking about. And we have an excellent search and rescue operation underway. I mean, I will say, and I completely agree with everything you just said. I mean, that was a perfect summary of the incoherence of Trump's approach. Important to remember that incoherence is central to Trump's approach on just about everything, which is why this is problematic beyond just the war in Iran. But we're seeing the real cost, and we've got an airman behind enemy lines trying to survive and trying to be rescued. And we should all think about him. We should also think about the 13 service members who have been killed and the hundreds who have been wounded. So yes, that search is front of mind right now on the war in Iran, but there are many other problems as you laid them out.
Yeah, and you talked to my colleague Antonia Hilton about one of them last night. I was listening to the conversation. I just want to play a little of that for our audience.
All Iran has to do is survive and be able to threaten us. And that's what they did today. Look, I mean, to some degree, Secretary Hegseth isn't wrong in terms of the amount of damage that we've done to Iran. What he's wrong about is the strategic impact of that damage. It does not take much for Iran to be able to inflict pain on us in the region.
This is a really important point. The administration talks about the fact that they've hit 11,000 targets in Iran. That reminds me of body counts, right? It's you can pile up numbers and they can sound impressive, but we don't actually understand where this leads. Are there 110,000 targets in Iran that are going to be hit? I just don't understand. Nothing leads us to any conclusion that this is going to end, except that Donald Trump says it may end in 2 weeks, but that he'll feel it in his bones and he'll know, and that the Strait of Hormuz will open up naturally. None of this is a strategy.
Let's try to connect 2 points here. First of all, everything we're talking about here is stuff we've been talking about for 15 years. Iran has been a problem for a while as their nuclear program expanded, as their ballistic missile program expanded, as proxy groups like Hezbollah and Hamas and the Houthis gained strength. Roughly from 2010 forward, every administration, every Secretary of Defense, every national security advisor has looked at this problem. And it is a problem. And we've considered military action. And the reason people have chosen not to do military action is because we didn't think it would be successful. Hegseth and Trump kind of think, well, the only reason we ever don't do military action is because we don't have the guts. We're not strong enough. No, we actually think about this stuff in terms of consequences. Consequences is not something Donald Trump thinks about. He acts. And the consequences were very clear from the start that, first of all, Iran, massive country, 90 million plus people, lots of territory, hard to get everything that they have and hard to stop them from being a threat. And they're right in the middle of a very important part of the world. They can threaten the Strait of Hormuz. They can threaten their allies very easily. If we were to attack, we would not weaken them significantly, and we would increase the violence that they would send out into the region. So therefore, we better come up with a better way to deter and contain them. So that was all right there on this particular problem. But understand that this goes beyond Iran. This is the problem, to my mind, with the Trump presidency. First of all, there's Trump, who is just, I think those descriptions are great. I love the quote, when you don't know where you're going, you're always on the right path. That fairly describes Trump's approach to just about everything. He just goes out there and he says stuff. And for some reason, we've decided that because some people find him vaguely entertaining, we're going to put him back in the White House. There's a lot to be said about that, which I'll leave alone for the moment. But Trump has always been Trump. Every time I hear people say, oh, people in the White House around him are concerned because he's doing this, he's doing that. I mean, go back to the mid-'80s. This is who the guy is, all right? And sure as hell we knew it after 2020. So there's that, and then there's the second part of it, which is how, and this is where Mike Johnson and the Republicans in Congress are the villains in this part of it, unchecked power. It is what Trump wants. It is what he has desired. It's what Hegseth wants. It's why he keeps firing people who disagree with him. Unchecked power leads to this type of stupid decision, particularly when the person with the unchecked power is not the sharpest tool in the shed and isn't particularly focused on the interest of the American people. He is more focused on his own narcissistic interests. When you give unchecked power to anyone, it's dangerous. When you give it to this guy, it's beyond dangerous. And we are experiencing that in this war right now.
Stand by for a second, Congressman. I'm going to take a quick break. We're going to continue this conversation after the break. I'm with Congressman Adam Smith of Washington. I'm back with the Washington Congressman Adam Smith, the top Democrat on the House Armed Services Committee. Congressman, the other day in the White House, in the Oval Office, a reporter asked Donald Trump about Americans being concerned with gas prices had crossed $4 a gallon. They're now $4.10 a gallon national average. And Donald Trump said, well, at least they don't have to be concerned about Iran throwing, he used the term throwing, a nuclear missile at us. Putting aside the fact that you don't throw nuclear missiles, there's no nuclear missile that Iran possesses that could reach the United States. And we are not aware of Iran having a nuclear missile to start with. But it's this obfuscation that is part of the problem, right? You should be okay with paying $4.10 a gallon of gas because I've saved you from a threat that didn't exist.
Right. Yeah, no, look, I mean, dishonesty and just sort of creating the world that Donald Trump wants. I mean, remember the scene from The Apprentice, the movie about how Roy Cohn taught Donald Trump everything he knows, and the line about the truth is what you say it is. Donald Trump took that to heart. And he's using that wherever he can. But the important question now is, for all of that, where does this go from here? And I think that's what we should all be concerned about, because Trump doesn't have a lot of good options. In the short term, the one thing that they can do is they can blow stuff up. You know, and tactically, you can see they blew a ship up, they blew that up. But at a certain point, that doesn't give you much in the way of a change. So what does he do now? And he's talked about escalation. Now, that escalation is sort of like a 2-year-old's fit when he doesn't get what he wants. It's not particularly well thought out. The notion that somehow ground troops are going to change this in any way other than bad, not true. There's nothing ground troops can do that are going to help fundamentally change this. And then the idea of blowing up all of their infrastructure, I mean, that doesn't help anything either. That just solidifies the Iranian people against us. So the only reasonable option at this point is try to first negotiate a ceasefire and then negotiate the best possible deal we can going forward. But look at what Iran is asking for now. You know, Trump's got his 15 points, none of which Iran is agreeing to. You know, we want them to not have ballistic missiles, abandon their nuclear program, not support terrorist organizations. Iran is saying, you know, we want to basically set up a toll booth in the Strait of Hormuz. We want permission. We want you to recognize our control of the Strait of Hormuz. So Iran wants this to end with them in an even stronger position than they were when it started. So the negotiations are crucial. And here, of course, Trump has sidelined all of our experienced diplomats in favor of Jared Kushner and Witkoff. So apparently it's up to Kushner and Witkoff to negotiate our way out of this. So it's likely to go on for a while, and I don't see it ending well.
I can't even believe some of the conversations you and I have, but I do appreciate the fact that you still get up and join us for the show. Congressman, thank you. Democratic Congressman Adam Smith of Washington.